Will the band please sound attention? Good morning, everyone. Would you please stand while we observe a moment of silence in remembrance of the 101st anniversary of the end of World War I, the war to end all wars. Thank you, and welcome to the first annual Peachtree Corners Veterans Day service. I'm Tiffany Grave de Peralta, a retired Navy commander, and I'll be your MC today. Please remain standing for the posting of colors by the Norcross High School Junior ROTC, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the singing of the National Anthem by the Norcross High School Chorus. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. The land of the free and the home of the brave. Order, color. I'd like to introduce to you the mayor of Peachtree Corners, a U.S. Navy veteran, Mr. Mike Mason.
Thank you, Tiffany. What a great crowd. Welcome to our first of many veterans commemorations. Before we go any further, let me once again thank the Veterans Monument Committee, led by Bob Bala, who can't be with us today, but I know he's thinking about us, for all that they did. And once again, let's give them a round of applause one more time. And you know who you are, but everybody owes them. The reason I make such a point about it is this gives us a sense of place to hold these first of many veterans commemorations. This is our place. This is where we can always come, and we plan to come twice a year here at Veterans Day and then again at Memorial Day to celebrate and be with each other and recognize veterans everywhere, for those that have sacrificed and those that served. And now it is my honor and privilege to read the first official proclamation by the City of Peachtree Corners recognizing Veterans Day. A proclamation of the City of Peachtree Corners, Georgia, recognizing the contributions of the armed forces and honoring all members of the military on November 11th, Veterans Day. Whereas 100 years ago, on November 11th, 1918, the armistice ended, the First World War went into effect, and whereas on May 13th, 1938, Congress declared that on November 11th of each year, the country should have a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be thereafter celebrated, known as Armistice Day. And whereas on November 8th, 1954, the word armistice was replaced with veterans to reflect that this special day was intended to honor those who served in all previous wars. And whereas whether a community has been in existence for 243 years or just 7 years like the City of Peachtree Corners, all citizens acknowledge that the privilege to come together as a community was made possible by those who have served and fought for that freedom. And whereas this November is a most special month because the Peachtree Corners community can, for the very first time, celebrate and honor veterans at its very own Veterans Monument, which was dedicated just a few short months ago. And whereas it is fitting that both individually and as a community, we pay tribute to those who have served our country by offering them our gratitude and deepest respect. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Council of the City of Peachtree Corners that on November 11th, all citizens of Peachtree Corners are encouraged to recognize the valor and sacrifice of our citizens through appropriate public ceremonies and private prayers. Citizens are also encouraged to participate in patriotic activities and commemorate this day with patriotic expressions so that all members of the military will know how much they are valued and appreciated. So proclaimed and effective this 11th day of November 2019. Thank you very much and enjoy the program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner a little more than 200 years ago, He called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were then. Throughout our nation's history, America's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American service members who've died in battle or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the 25 million veterans still living today. It's our privilege now to say thank you to let them know that we appreciate their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high, and we can't afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. And now I'd like to ask the Norcross High School Band to play the service medley. As each service song is played, I would ask any veterans in the audience, please stand when you hear your service's song. Thank you, band and chorus. Today we have some distinguished guests in attendance. I believe the majority, if not all, of the Peachtree Corner City Council members are here today. All of them, by the way, have family members who are veterans. We also have Beth Moore, who is our state representative, whose father-in-law, Lori Moore Sr., was a Navy fighter pilot in the Vietnam era, and he's here with her today. Thank you all for coming. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a French soldier.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here on this wonderful day. We have shared our daily life with two U.S. units for quite a while. They are the 1st and 4th Infantry Battalions of a battalion that we would like to say is very prestigious. To the common man, It is a battalion like any other, but we have lived with them and we have got to know them. Henceforth, we have had the opportunity to live and serve with one of the most renowned units in the U.S. Army. One that the TV shows brought to the public, showcasing ordinary soldiers thrust into extraordinary events. Who are they, these soldiers from abroad? How do their lives differ? And what do they offer our men of our operational mentor and liaison team? Few of them belong to the new team, the one that they call the Echo Company, but we know them as truly the support group. They have terribly strong American accents. In fact, to us, the language they speak is not even English. How many times did I have to write down what I wanted to say, rather than trying various pronunciations of a seemingly common word? Whatever state they are from, Los Angeles, California, New York, or wonderful Georgia, no two accents sound alike. In fact, the soldiers tell us that in crisis situations, they have trouble understanding each other. Heavily built, fed at an early age on Gatorade, creatine, and protein, they are head and shoulders taller than most of us. In fact, their muscles remind us of Rambo. Simply said, their frames, to them, we are amusingly skinny, even big ones like myself. Because of that, they often mistake us for Afghans. And they are impressive warriors. We have not come across any bad ones, and that may seem strange to you when you know how critical we can be as French. All of them provide us every day with lessons in infantry know-how beyond the wearing of a combat kit that never seems to discomfort them. On the 1 square meter wooden tower above the perimeter wall, they stand 5 consecutive hours in full battle rattle and night vision goggles on top, their sight unmoving in the directions of likely danger. They are like statues night and day. At night, all movements are performed in the dark. Only a handful of subdued red lights indicate the movement of soldiers. Everything happens in pitch dark, even the filling of fuel tanks with the jappy pump. And combat, if you have seen Rambo, you have seen it all. Always coming to the rescue when one of our teams gets into trouble, and always in the shortest delay. That is one of their tricks. T-shirt and sandals to combat ready in less than 3 minutes. Arriving in contact with the enemy, honor, motherland. Everything here reminds us of that. The American flag floating in the wind above the outpost, just like the one on the post parcels. Even if recruits originate from the hearth of American cities and gang territory, no one here has any goal other than to hold high and proud the Star-Spangled Banner. Each man knows he can count on the support of a whole nation who provides them through the mail all that all an American could use and need in a remote frontline location. Books, chewing gum, razor blades, Gatorade, toothpaste, etc. In such a way that every man is aware that how much the American people backs him in his difficult mission. And that is the first shock to our preconceptions. The American soldier is no individualist. The team, the group, the combat team are the focus of all his attention. From 5 a.m. onwards, the camp chores are performed in beautiful order and always in excellent spirit. A passing American helicopter stops near a stranded vehicle just to check that everything is all right. An American combat team will rush in to support ours before even knowing how dangerous the mission is. From what we have been given to witness, the American soldier is a beautiful and worthy heir to those who were liberated in France and Europe. To those who bestow us with the honor of sharing their combat outpost, and who every day give proof of their military excellence, to those who show the development of tributes to Army and our soul, we will always remain worthy of them and continue hearing them say that we are all the same band of brothers. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Darrell Johnson for that amazing performance. You can read Mr. Johnson's biography in today's program, but suffice to say he is a distinguished and accomplished actor, model, and speaker. He's also the son of Peachtree Corner's own L.C. Johnson, right here near the front row. And L.C. is a veteran and very active in our city and throughout Gwinnett County. And now I'd like to introduce our city manager, Brian Johnson. Brian has been the city manager since November 2016. He's a veteran of both the Navy and the Army. While in the Army as the officer in charge of civil military operation in Sadr City, Iraq, his interest and experience in local government management began as he successfully planned and organized the formation of a municipal government there. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brian Johnson.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have the distinct privilege of being able to spend a couple minutes with you today on a momentous occasion such as this to discuss and honor our veterans. I do want to start with a couple things, and one, I do want to, if you see any of the members of City Council, thank them for the leadership they had, and then the committee led by Bob Balla and many others to create an opportunity, a location like this for us to have these kind of ceremonies. These ceremonies always mean more when you have a backdrop like this, and we're lucky to have something like this in the city. Before I spend a couple minutes talking about veterans and how we define a veteran, I do want to mention one thing. When earlier in the program, when we were playing all of the songs of the different branches, there were a number of you who did not stand for any of them. And that's important because there are, for every one of us who are a veteran, there are many others in greater number that, for all intents and purposes, served themselves. You were either a child of a veteran, married to a veteran, the parent of a veteran, even a friend of a veteran, or in some cases you're just here because you recognize just the fact that we do not have the honor of living in a country that we are living in without there being people who are prepared to step up and do things that many people could do, but a lot of people in our country choose not to do. So I do want to thank all of you who may not have actually raised your right hand to swear in directly, but indirectly you served as much as many of us did. So I want to thank you for that. So I just want to spend a couple minutes today talking about veteran. What is a veteran? And we all know we define veteran as somebody who has served his or her country in some capacity. But veteran oftentimes is skewed a little bit in the context of what we oftentimes talk about, what we read about in novels and memoirs and short and long stories are veterans that served in war or in times of combat. And that tends to be what most of those things are discussing when it comes to veterans. But what a lot of people don't realize is a number of things as it relates to that. One is over 90% of people who have served in the military have not seen combat of any sort whatsoever. And so when we think about the body of work that the military has and all it takes to defend this country, a large share of it has nothing to do with combat directly. And I know that even personally, having been both, having been in the military before and after, I know that when I was coming up, as a young kid, I used to sit at the knees of both of my grandfathers who served during World War II, and they used to tell me stories about what they did, and they told me a lot of things about their service, but of course the ones that I always thought were the most unique were the ones that had to do with World War II, despite the fact that they served many years afterwards. And we oftentimes forget that all veterans started off in the same place. We all started off, again, choosing to do something that many people in our country could do. So it's not like many of us were doing things that, you're just, one of the few that can do it. It's really, generally speaking, not the case. It's that most people in the country chose not to do. So you stepped up and you said, yes, I'm going to do something that not everybody is willing to do. And then you basically, and some of you have heard this before, you basically wrote Uncle Sam a blank check. And you said, Uncle Sam, here's a blank check. You choose when, where, and in what capacity you want to cash it. And to a large degree, we all then go through the same training. We all chewed up the same ground, went to the same ranges, learned a lot of the same skill sets. But where we ended up, what environment, whether it was in combat against a foreign power, whether it was peacekeeping, or whether it was just serving, the country in somewhere in the States, or even supporting other veterans, a lot of it has to do with timing. But one common denominator between all veterans was all of us were prepared for Uncle Sam to look at us and say, it's time for us to cash that blank check that you wrote us. And sometimes it's just the timing. The Pentagon and the brass are the ones who decide which units go where, and oftentimes and most of the time it has nothing to do with you as an individual. It's just where you were at a certain point. And that's important to remember on days like this, because veterans, when we all start out at the same place, we all are prepared to make the same sacrifice. We all put in the same amount of sweat and training and preparation for that day that we might be called. Some of us were, some of us won't, but we're all equal. The country is equally indebted to the fact that any one of us were prepared to do to go where Uncle Sam called us. And the last thing I will say about that too is, despite the timing and where you may go or where you may not go, what other common denominator that everybody in the military has is, by virtue of you being in a profession that is inherently dangerous just in its existence, and it's doing things or prepared to do things that you just don't see elsewhere. Even in training, there is a lot of danger. There's a couple of stats to keep in mind. Do you know last year there were more than 4 times as many died in training accidents as in combat, despite us having troops all over the world in combat zones? Of the more than 16,000 active duty deaths since 2006, only 4,500 of them were in combat operations. So, as you can see, training is or oftentimes more risky a business as the combat itself. And all of the veterans were at some point in time going through that training, prepared to do that. So, I just wanted to close with saying, veterans, let's all remember that veterans are all, we all start at the same place, and we all ended at the same place, and that is the fact that we decided to raise our right hand to support and defend this country, and we're prepared to go wherever, whenever, and however our country asks us to go. For that, I want to thank all of you for the service that you gave your country, and myself and the rest of the country are forever indebted to you. Now, speaking of indebted, I want to transition, and I want I'm going to go through and read through time periods that we have had in this country, starting with World War II, and these are periods of time this country has had in which there are still living veterans of. And when I read that period of time, I would like for you to stand if you served during that period of time. And at the end of this, if you would remain standing, we are going to have taps played. So if there's anybody here who served during World War II, 1941 through 1945, please stand. Is there anybody who, less those who were in combat, but anybody who served during the Cold War, which are considered between the years of 1945 and 1989? Anybody here served during the Korean War, 1950 to 53? During the Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975. The Gulf War, 1990-91. Served in Afghanistan from 2001 through present. And served in Iraq from 2003 to present. Please remain standing as tap is played.
Retire the colors.
March time. March. Right turn. March. Forward. March.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our service. I'd like to thank the Norcross High School Band, the chorus, and the junior ROTC. Also, sincere thanks to Sharon Knox Tucker for handling the final coordination efforts of this event in the absence of Bob Balla. That's it, everyone, and thanks for coming. Enjoy your day.